One of the coolest things about Alchemy in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is that you don't actually need to purchase a recipe in order to brew a particular potion. We spent that groschen buying them so you don't have to, and here are our 5 favorite recipes you can brew early on, free of charge. Before we start, always remember to use the drying rack to preserve your herbs after picking them. It's a huge bummer to spend hours foraging only to realize some of your herbs are no longer fresh. All of these herbs and materials, other than thistle and dandelion, can also be bought from the Troskovitz apothecary in their already dried form, and they're relatively cheap. I recommend buying out his entire stock every time he resupplies. You should also grab the Secret of Equilibrium perk as soon as you reach Alchemy level 8, as that lets you ignore small mistakes while brewing, improving your chance to make higher quality potions. All the potions you see me brew today were done at Alchemy level 11, and with the Secret of Equilibrium perk taken. It really doesn't take long to raise your level if you just keep brewing. I'll be going over how to brew all these potions step by step, and I'll also timestamp pictures from the recipe book if you want to just skip to what you need. If you need a bit more help with how alchemy works in the first place, make sure to check out our full video guide to alchemy that's already been published. It'll be on the ending card as well at the end of this video. Saviour Schnapps is the most important potion you can brew since they allow you to manually save. No amount of healing or stat boosting can overcome losing hours of progress to a death or a bad dialogue decision. Thankfully, the ingredients are easy to come by. Nettles, the most common ingredient in early potions, grow near the edges of woods or right next to water, such as this riverbank southeast of Troskovitz. You'll always want to keep a bunch on hand as they'll be used in most of the potions I'll mention today. Belladonna is a bit harder to come by out in the wild. We've found 2 locations, the nameless spring right here halfway between Zelyov and Bajina's hut, here in this unattended picnic basket, and there's about 20 or so at this location southeast of Troskovitz right across from this little homestead. They're green with tiny purple buds, and look a lot like bushes, so they're actually really hard to see until you get close. Thankfully, belladonna can also be purchased from the Troskovitz apothecary. To make Saviour Schnapps, pour wine into the raised cauldron. Add 1 handful of nettle to the raised cauldron, pump the bellows once, lower the cauldron, and boil for 2 turns. Raise the cauldron back up, grind 2 handfuls of belladonna, and add them to the cauldron. Pump the bellows once, lower the cauldron back down, and boil for 1 more turn before raising it back up. Grab a phial, and pour. If you made this potion at a high enough quality, it'll give you a boost to strength, vitality, and agility as well. I recommended brewing Marigold Decoctions in the other alchemy video as a quick way to raise your level, and I stand by that here. They only require nettles and marigolds, the latter of which is all over the Troskovitz apothecary's garden, and each brewing only takes about 90 seconds. On top of that, they're genuinely useful as a method to heal yourself. Here's how you brew them. First, pour water into the raised cauldron. Add 1 handful of nettle, and pump the bellows once, before lowering it and boiling for 2 turns. Raise the cauldron back up, grind 2 handfuls of marigold, and then add them to the raised cauldron. Grab a phial, and pour. Marigold decoctions are easy to repeat. This way you can raise your alchemy level, sell all the ones you don't need, and still have a bunch left over to actually use for healing. Food poisoning is surprisingly debilitating in KCD 2, given that you continually lose health, strength, agility, and vitality for the duration of your sickness. These can cause cascading issues as well, such as becoming overloaded due to your stats dropping, even if you don't take on any more weight, meaning you move more slowly, can't get on a horse, and can't fast travel, effectively leaving you stranded. Digestive potions will instantly cure food poisoning instead of having to wait it out, and they'll help reduce fullness if you overeat as well. It once again requires nettles, along with thistle, and 1 handful of charcoal. Thistles are one of the 2 ingredients we'll need today that the apothecary doesn't have for sale, but thankfully they're abundant if you know where to look, such as this small clearing southeast of Troskovitz where you'll find them scattered, or this field southeast of Samin and west of Nebekov Mill where you'll find them in abundance. Honestly, since they often appear in big clusters and they're bright purple, you probably won't have much trouble spotting them no matter which direction you walk in. Charcoal is easiest to just purchase from the apothecary, but you can also steal it from bags at a blacksmith's forge. Here's how to brew digestive potions. Pour water in the raised cauldron. Add 2 handfuls of thistle to the raised cauldron, pump the bellows once, and lower the cauldron, boiling it for 2 turns. Raise the cauldron back up, grind 1 handful of nettle, and add it to the raised cauldron. Pump the bellows once, lower the cauldron, and boil for 1 turn before raising the cauldron again. Grind 1 handful of charcoal and add it to the raised cauldron. Grab a phial and pour. If you brew this to a high enough quality, it will raise your vitality as well. Stamina in KCD2 not only governs what actions you can perform, but sometimes whether or not you even take damage, as enemies must wear down your stamina before depleting your health directly if you're armored enough to defend their strikes. Chugging a high-quality buck's blood will not only increase your stamina, but also increase your stamina regeneration, so you don't miss a block or a swing in a pivotal moment. For the ingredients, let's start with dandelions since you can't purchase those from the apothecary. They're pretty abundant, and they can be found in the same clearing we found the thistle in earlier, just south of Troskowitz. They're pretty easy to see with their white tips. St. John's wort can be found in glades, which are clearings around leafy forests. Unfortunately, they look very similar to the common yellow flowers scattered everywhere, so they can be a bit hard to spot. They are just a little bit darker than these unnamed flowers. You can also find a bunch in several different gardens in Samine. And finally, you can find comfrey both in the apothecary's garden and around bodies of water and in ditches. They're thin plants with small, light purple buds, and we found some right here. To brew buck's blood, pour oil in the raised cauldron, grind 1 handful of St. John's wort and add it to the cauldron, add 1 handful of comfrey to the cauldron, pump the bellows once, and lower it to boil for 1 turn, then raise the cauldron back up. Add 1 handful of dandelion to the cauldron, pump the bellows, and lower it back down. This time, continue pumping the bellows all throughout 1 turn of the sandglass. Raise the cauldron back up, grab a phial, and pour. To round out this list, we have Hair of the Dog. In KCD2, just as in real life, binge drinking is a skill, and the more you do it, the higher tolerance you have for it. There are social situations in KCD2 in which you may be forced to drink or you get a benefit for doing so, and while you do get some initial stat boosts for drinking, if you have too much, it can negatively affect your stats or even cause you to pass out. Hair of the Dog reduces or even eliminates drunkenness, and can even help with the ensuing hangovers, or your addiction to alcohol if you spend too much time getting drunk. Like digestive potions for food poisoning, it's just a good idea to have one of these potions on hand in case you can't handle the peer pressure. For the ingredients, we've already gone over how to get St. John's wort in the buck's blood section, and the sage is easily found in the Troskowitz apothecary's garden, right here next to the chamomile. For mint, the menu says it could be found in gardens and alongside houses, but since it's pretty short and doesn't particularly stand out with white petals at the bottom of a green stalk, it can be hard to see. There are a few in the apothecary's garden in this corner over here, as well as in this garden in Zelyov. To brew Hair of the Dog, pour water into a raised cauldron. Add 1 handful of sage and 1 handful of St. John's wort to the raised cauldron, pump the bellows once, and then lower it down to boil for 3 turns. Raise the cauldron back up, and grind 1 handful of mint before adding it. Grab a phial and pour. There are many more potions to brew, so make sure you check out our full guide on IGN.com. For everything else gaming, you're already in the right place. IGN.